Okay, welcome everyone to Jayne's success story, another success story through the Team Unbinged or Team Binge Free program. Thank you, Jayne, so much for taking time out of your day to share your story. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and it's my pleasure to share the story.
Yeah, yeah, your story is really inspiring, and I think it's gonna be a light for a lot of people who are really stuck. So I'm really excited to we'll take maybe 15, 20 minutes just to share your hope and your breakthroughs. So we'll get right into it. I just want to ask you first, tell me a bit about your struggles with binge eating or overeating in the past.
So, I always thought I was overweight, even when I probably wasn't. So, I dieted, I restricted, I binged, I overate, and this has been my whole life, probably since I was married, in 1989. So it's going back till then, and so the restricting led to weekends of binging, um, because I felt I denied myself something and then I would self sabotage. And then during the pandemic, I was able to lose weight being on a very restrictive diet. And then once I went off, I saw the weight coming back on quickly. And I wanted to do something to stop gaining weight. Like I was desperate to stop gaining weight because I really didn't know how. And I knew I couldn't go back on that restrictive program that I was on. So I went to a doctor, then I went to my psychopharmacologist, and she prescribed medication, and she said the medication wasn't going to work by itself. So I just took that to mean that I need to join a support group. Um, and then I know Facebook has a lot of support groups, and then I found your group.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and I'm so glad that you did. You've become such a great part of our community. You've helped others already, and you've had so many breakthroughs. What had you tried in the past before to resolve issues around food?
I pretty much tried everything. I remember in college dieting, our whole dorm suite would diet for 4 days, and then we'd go out drinking and load up on carbs. And it was 4 days during the week of starvation, and then drinking and throwing up blood because we had nothing in our stomachs. I mean, just crazy things. And yeah, yeah,
As you do?
yeah, it's real. It was really crazy. And then I found an eating disorder specialist, a therapist, and this is when I was working, and she helped me with a lot of things, but not. She didn't give me the tools and the behavior changes, like the modifications to do it. She just
Mm.
re-examined why I was eating emotionally. So I went to her for 5 years, and I never lost a pound. Um, so then I decided to stop going to her and just try things on my own. And then in June, when I started my journey to stop gaining weight that I had previously lost, I lost 50 and I gained back 20. And I knew I was going to gain back all 50 unless I did something. So I've tried every diet from Weight Watchers to Optavia to the cabbage diet to the 4 day diet to everything.
Cabbage diet. That sounds.
And
What
you
is
name it.
involved in a
When I
cabbage diet?
when I was in college, we did a different diet every week. The best one was banana, hot dogs, and eggs. So one day you could only eat bananas, one day you could only eat hot dogs, one day you could only eat eggs, and the fourth day you could eat a combination of all three. Can you imagine like how crazy we were?
that is, I can't even imagine the theory that that is healthy in any way, never mind sustainable. That's a
Right.
wild way of eating. Wild. And so when you like you lost the 50 and then you gained back the 20, did
Hmm.
you try other things at that point to like to pump the brakes on the regain?
No, because I didn't know what to do. So I just tried going to, I Googled doctors that deal in weight loss, hoping to get on some weight loss medication because I was desperate. I really was desperate. I didn't know what to do. And my insurance doesn't cover it. And actually, there was none available at the time. So he suggested that I might look into some things for binge eating, which I didn't, never really, I had once given it some thought that maybe I did have binge eating disorder. But so then I said, okay, I'll examine that. And that's when I started my research on binge eating disorder.
Ah, okay. Okay, great. Yeah. Yeah, and good on you for like identifying that that could be a potential issue and then taking it on head on. Um,
Right, right.
and when you look at like the banana hot dog diet and all of the leading up to this program, when you lost that 50 pounds, you were on a really, really restrictive diet,
1,000
um,
calories a
a,
day.
1,000 calories a day. Yeah. And a lot of restriction, a lot of food fear, cutting out. You cut out carbs, I think, for a while. Hey.
It was all prepackaged food for breakfast, lunch, and snacks. And then you could have a dinner, which was just vegetables and protein. So, and no fruit. And even the vegetables were restricted. Like you couldn't have onions because they were too high in carbs. So, only certain vegetables.
Yeah, yeah. So that went to extremes. Cutting out onions because they're high in carbs is, yeah, that's extreme. Hey.
It was crazy. Now
Yeah,
that I look back on it,
yeah. When you're within it, it can make some sense, right? But
because it was
looking back
working,
on it
right?
now, yeah, yeah. Okay, so what was different about this program compared to those diets that you tried so many of?
Well, what was different is I think that your program takes a holistic approach, which no program ever does. So, the key things for me, which I knew I didn't have the non food nourishment, or I didn't
Mm,
think of it as that. So, just pretty much things that I was doing, just looking at it from a positive spin. So that you told me, like, oh, put a positive, well, you didn't say that, but you're like, oh, don't think of cooking as a chore, think of it as a hobby. And so now I do. And I feel really different about it. I like cooking. I like looking at recipes. I like finding healthy foods. Um, I made Nutella cookies, and it's only three ingredients, and I only ate one, and they're there. And I haven't binged on anything. And I forgot what the question was. I'm just going off on a tangent. Oh, so that was one, the non-food nourishment. So doing the meditation, doing everything that you said would work. I just was throwing everything at this wall. So did the meditation. I started going to the gym, to fitness class. And then it just seemed like a whole attitude change for me that other people had noticed, because I wasn't so miserable because I wasn't restricting any food. And once I gave
mm.
myself permission, I didn't overeat and I didn't binge. So that was it. Realizing that restricting is awful.
Yeah. Yeah, and how restriction, it's a word that's often used in this world. How and then I'm most curious how people define the word restriction. Like you say restriction is awful. What's restriction to you?
It's denying myself foods that I could enjoy in moderation, but I didn't know
Yeah,
how because I didn't have any other outlet for my negative feelings.
yeah, and you made some key I think in every pillar that we practice, you made big shifts, but the non-food nourishment was a really big one. You joined exercise classes, and it wasn't like go in there and beat the crap out of yourself and do a ton of cardio. You did what's most important in entering the fitness world for a lot of people, not everyone, but you joined classes with an instructor that you liked, and you started seeing non-scale victories to where uh, you felt stronger in the classes. And I remember also a big breakthrough was that your steps in a day were naturally going up
Right.
because you felt active, and so you were naturally walking around more instead of forcing those. Hey, that was a really big breakthrough.
Right. And I wasn't as tired, so I would get up off the couch a lot more.
Yeah, yeah, and that was another non-food nourishment change that you made
Mhm.
was eliminating or reducing just like comfort eating in front of the TV.
And that was a big thread in your group that you had for the October challenge. It seemed like all of us had that problem of mindless eating in front of the TV. So that
Totally.
was a big habit change. I don't watch TV at night anymore. I read.
Yeah. And there's I can offer the framework and the structure, but there's so many things where you took action and saw results. And that's what's been most satisfying and enjoyable for me working with you is that you take those actions and you see those benefits. And so each week you come excited instead of deprived, right? So good on you doing that because the couch and the TV, like you said, for many people in the group and in the program, that is there's an association there with overeating that you broke. And it doesn't mean we can never watch TV, we can never eat and watch TV, but if we identify that as kind of like a habit loop and we break it a bit, there's a lot of freedom there, hey?
Right. So sometimes now I will sit at the dining room table and eat and watch TV. I don't bring the food on the couch.
Yeah, yeah, and good for you. That makes a world of a difference, hey? Sitting down at a
Right.
table and eating. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, great. So, the next question I want to ask you is how are things different now from from how they were 10 weeks ago?
Well, I'm just happier and um I can deal with stress better. Um when I first met you, I told you the reason I ate is because my husband was annoying and he doesn't annoy me anymore. So I've learned how to deal with annoying things. So I
Good for
think
you.
just because I was so unhappy with myself that little things annoyed me that, I had no control over. And I had no control over myself because I was out of control with my food. So, that's what I've seen as a change. My best friend has seen a change in me. She said I'm very positive and she sees a whole different change. And last week I went to my book club and there were four other women there and they saw I told them about my whole journey. And they were so supportive and so proud of me. And they saw a big change in me and just my attitude.
Yeah, and in your attitude. And I don't think that those, correct me if I'm wrong, that those comments were only about weight loss, but
No, I
more
haven't
your
lost any
attitude.
weight. It was more about my presence and my
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah, you're not so tight and restrictive and fear-based. You
And
had
more
some very black and white ideas about food that we have successfully turned gray, hey?
right.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Um, Awesome. Okay, so the next question, what were some, I think you've gone over a couple of them with the techniques, but what were the key components in the program that you felt like allowed you to make real and sustainable change? Like you don't feel like you were never given a set of rules, a list of foods to eat and not eat. So it's not a diet, but what gives you the sense that it is a sustainable change that won't fade out in 6 weeks?
Because I'm eating foods that I like. I never was a fast food person. So it's not like I'm going to McDonald's or anything like that. I never really ate fast food. My binges were on chocolate. Um,
Mm,
so that's different. So I always liked to eat healthy. I always believed in having a lot of fruit and a lot of vegetables, and um, so that was easy for me. And especially after denying myself food for so long, 3 years ago, I would never eat an apple because I just never liked it. And now I really like it. So I don't know why that's changed, but I guess that's part of the intuitive eating is just knowing that foods are good for your body and liking them. So another
yeah,
example is that I know I should have vegetables twice a day, but I don't want to make myself have something that I don't feel like eating because that goes back to the whole diet restricting mentality or forcing.
mhm.
So I made soup with vegetable soup. So if I didn't feel like having a salad or cook or raw vegetables, I could have it in a soup and then be full and have that with something else.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. Little changes have made a world of a difference for you, right?
Right.
Yeah, and when people are struggling with extremes in their eating, they often feel like another extreme is the answer. And you're a perfect example of just making little tweaks and creating a way of eating that you enjoy. Uh,
Right.
Getting away from extremes like no apples, right? You
Right.
you you were really at a point when we met that you had, you know, a lot of people that have this problem, they're really good at discipline actually, and but the discipline actually turns into unreasonable restriction and it's unsustainable. And we don't like a lot of programs say, well, just eat whatever you want whenever you want, right? We do have a health focused approach, but often we have to peel back that level of restriction to where it gets to a point where it's supportive and sustainable and delicious and enjoyable. And from what I saw, that was one of the biggest breakthroughs that you had, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So the last question that I want to ask you is just to honestly speak to anyone who's considering accepting help, considering inquiring about this program or maybe taking the program, not asking you to plug it, but just your experience. What would you say to someone who is in that position, nervous to ask for help, but could benefit from it?
Um, I would say do it now, because especially if you're under 40, because it's just easier, and the younger you do it, the easier it is to have those habits. And I use this analogy with our little group, Jordan, and I don't know if I said it to you, but my husband has neuropathy in his feet and he can't drive with his feet. And he had to learn to drive with hand controls. And when the driving instructor said, it's easier to teach an 18-year-old high school student who never learned to drive with their hands than it is for you to unlearn how to drive with your feet and then learn how to drive with your hands. So I thought that was a really good analogy, that we have to, and I applied this to all the work that I did with you, is unlearn, which is really hard to do. It took my husband 2 years to learn how to drive with his hands, with hand controls. Unlearn and then relearn. So the younger you are, the better it is. And
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
well, I could talk forever. So I really feel that this program has really changed my life for the better. And I really feel that now I could live my life to the fullest, that I'm really taking advantage of everything that there is out there in the world. I mean, I know that sounds so cliche, but it's true.
Yeah, it really is. And like two things you touched on there, I think that's a super powerful analogy. Like you said, start earlier if you can. And a lot of people have heard that earlier the better.
Right.
But what you connected it to with your husband, that was he was having to rewire his brain, right?
Yes.
And that's a lot harder later on. And I've worked with people who have had 40 years of disordered eating and people who have had a year and a half. And I've seen success for both, but there is that ingrained, this is the way that we do things after so much time that's harder to break through. And so I think you make a really powerful point there is the sooner you do it, the easier it is to make change, and also the less time you waste, right? In that restrictive diet mentality.
And also to give yourself time to unlearn.
True. Yeah.
Because it's not
Yeah.
going to
If
be
you're earlier,
overnight.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Yeah. And you've chipped away at it over time. And
I did
yeah.
everything
And
you
got,
suggested.
you did. Yeah. And yeah, you're one of those dream students who I actually sometimes have to be careful about what I say to do next because I know you're going to do it. Right. So it's like I have to rein in. Yeah. If I say stop doing this next week, you will entirely. So it's a matter of making sure that I dose out the information at a proper pace so that you have sustainable breakthroughs that you enjoy and don't feel restrictive and all that, right?
Right. So yeah, the second week you told me I have to do more movement, but you were good. You said only twice a week. Start with twice a week. Because if you would have said 5 days a week, I would have said, no, I'm not doing 5 days a week. So I started with two, and well, I got sick, so I haven't done any kind of movement in the past 2 weeks, but I was up to 4 days a week of, doing physical movement outside of regular stuff. So
Yeah, we're sorry, go ahead.
no, that's it.
Yeah, and this was a cool thing because it should be led by the client. Uh, I should set a spark, but I set a spark at 2. And then you are coming each week and saying, hey, I added this. I added this. I'm doing this with my husband. And that's how you create sustainable change, not when you're told to do something and if you don't do it, you're in crap. But to where you're just a seed is planted and then you're supported and it grows. And now you have a healthy relationship with movement that you're not holding your breath or forcing yourself. And I think that's with time going to grow and grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just feel, and I remember when I first spoke to you, I was worried that 10 weeks, that I would need 10 more weeks. And some people might, but I didn't. I feel, I still want to stay with the group once a month, but I don't feel the need for one on one anymore.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the aim. I've tried 13 weeks, I've tried 12 weeks, I've tried 8 weeks, and the I'm playing with some new ideas with different dynamics. But what I've found is, yeah, the magic number is 10 weeks, and we can create a new confident and flexible eater within that time, and just remove the idea that food has to be this nightmare that we're trying to confront every day, right?
Right. And everything that you said, and it just is so much common sense that I wouldn't have thought of it on my own, like the food adventure. That makes a big difference, to give yourself a food adventure and allow yourself to eat something that in the past you never would have. So, for example, Wednesday, we're going to the Culinary Institute of America. It's about an hour drive from here with family. And, it's very haute cuisine, and it's students that serve you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, that's going to be a nice eating adventure. And since I'm allowing myself to have that, it's just a three-course meal, and I'm going to have whatever I want. So I won't feel deprived and come home and eat chocolate, because that has been my MO, to be restrictive when I eat out or go on vacation and then come home and binge.
Yes. Yeah, the we do so many little, you know, I had so many problems I couldn't figure out that I had to get really creative to have breakthroughs. And the food adventures is one of the keys. It's like we think we have to eliminate certain foods, but often the brain is like, if we only ever eat Oreos on the couch, then the brain is going to keep saying more volume to satisfy this experience, right? But when we have things like you're talking about here, adventurous experiences, they satisfy the brain in ways that, 4 rows of Oreos couldn't, right?
And just the whole mental thing of letting yourself is such a big relief. I recently went on a cruise, a 5-day cruise, and in the past, I always say, I'm not going to eat anything on the cruise. I'm not going to drink. I'm just going to be on a diet on the cruise. And I said, I'm going to enjoy myself, and I'm going to do everything in moderation, everything that I want. I'm not going to restrict. And I didn't gain any weight on the cruise. So it works. This works. And I didn't come home
Yeah, and
and binge because I didn't feel like I denied myself of anything.
yeah, and this was so special because this was just before our last week, our 10th session, and you were going on a cruise, which is like what I would say is like the end boss of can I manage my eating? And you went on it, and I observed and I thought, hey, this could go either way. Let's see how she comes back. And you had total mastery. You had flexibility, enough flexibility, and you didn't build up some restrictive tension and then come home and self-sabotage. And that it was perfectly timed that it was at the end, And it just put a bow on all the work that you'd done. I saw if she went on a cruise like that, uh, you're set. So I'm really, really, really excited for you for the next steps in your growth because you've developed here mastery in what we call the art of eating, right? Not rules,
Right.
but kind of a martial art, always learning new techniques and enjoying the process of growing, right?
I was listening to a video on intuitive eating, and a quote that I came away with is said, think of your body as a laboratory, and the food an experiment. So you'll know, like, if you eat too little, then you have to add more to your, lunch or breakfast or whatever. So just keep trying new things. It's one big experiment to on this intuitive, mindful eating journey.
Mm. Yeah, and one of the biggest problems for people is they're seeking to either get it right or fail again. And we replace that identity of I'm a binge eater and I need to quit to I'm a learning eater. And each time I eat is an opportunity to grow. And that quote from that book perfectly summarizes that.
Right, it
It's an
does.
experimental process, right? I've been teaching on this for 4 years, and I still view food as a teacher and a place where I can get feedback about myself and meeting my needs outside of food. So yeah, that's a great quote. Yeah.
So that's all I have to say is that I'm a really happy, free person because of the program. It's
Yeah.
changed my life because I was desperate. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we connected. Perfect match, and you were so ready, and you took so much action, and yeah, it couldn't have been a better experience. And you have so much to share with other people. So just a preview for other people watching this. We don't know in what context, but you're going to become more of a leader in our community. So the first part of that is just letting people know that if you're okay with this, that they can add you as a friend, shoot you a
Absolutely.
message, yeah,
Add
and
me
take
as a
advantage
friend.
of the wisdom that you have.
I don't post on my own Facebook page because it got too political, but I do post on your pages and other groups that I've joined. So I go on Facebook for the support groups.
Yeah. Yeah, so and that's another thing you've done that's helped you is post in the group to be seen on your food adventures and on the action that you're taking in the October challenge, right?
Right.
So anybody watching, when you see Jayne Bernstein Weiner, is
Jane
that the name?
Bernstein Listener.
Bernstein Wisner. When
Right.
you see her name, she is happy to get a friend request, a message from you, and you have so much to offer. So yeah, I'm excited for the next step in your evolution where you're able to, because we always hear, I mean, in self-development circles that I'm in, the best way to continue on your growth is to continue sharing what you've learned with others. It's very, very helpful.
Yes, it is.
So
So don't
yeah,
worry about bothering me. I'm retired, so I'm not that busy. Well, I'm busy with fun things. So I'm not busy with stress things.
yeah. Yeah, great. Okay, so I won't take too much more of your time. I'm going to prepare for our
Okay.
group call, which will I see you there in
Yes,
25
you'll see
minutes?
me there.
Yeah, awesome. Okay,
Okay.
thank you
Thanks,
again.
Jordan. Okay, see you later.
Yeah, not only for doing this, but for the whole thing. It's been totally such a pleasure.
It's been great, but I'm not going anywhere. So
Yeah, you'll be around. Yeah, definitely. I'll see you in 25 minutes. And
Okay.
I hope and I believe you're going to be a growing part of our community.
I would love to.
Yeah. Yeah. Sweet, Jane.
Okay.
Okay. Have a
Thanks.
good 25 minutes and I'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye bye.